Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. Barrett Brown is going to jail. Well, he's already been in jail. He is returning to jail, or actually he returned yesterday to jail to finish out a 63-month sentence. Barrett Brown, you may recall, you may not, was originally facing over 100 years in prison for the dastardly, horrible crime of posting a link to something that was hacked material. He did not do the hacking. Barrett Brown is not a hacker. Barrett Brown is a journalist. Barrett Brown was affiliated with Anonymous. He admitted as such that he was affiliated with Anonymous. That's how I am able to say that he was affiliated with Anonymous. And he wound up taking a plea last year. And because of the plea deal, he wound up not facing 100 years in prison. They reduced that down. They dropped several of the charges. They reduced that down to a maximum of 8.5 years. He will now serve the remainder of a 63-month sentence. The story comes from Wired.com. Barrett Brown, who became a cause célèbre after he was charged with crimes related to the 2011 Stratfor hack, will not go free, as his supporters had hoped. He was sentenced. This article was from yesterday, so it says he was sentenced today, but it was actually yesterday, to 5 years and 3 months in prison. Brown was facing a possible 8.5 years in prison after he pled guilty earlier in the year. It says earlier this year, but the plea was last year at some point. Pled guilty to 2 charges related to aiding and abetting and obstruction of justice, and a separate charge involving threats he made to an FBI agent. His attorneys sought a sentence of 30 months with consideration for time served and other mitigating factors, which would have left him with just 2 months remaining in jail. Brown had been in custody without bail since he was arrested in September 2012 while in the middle of an online chat. The sentence of 63 months means that minus the 28 months already served, and actually this is incorrect. He had served 31 months. The article from The Guardian does correct that and say 31 months. The Wired article still has the incorrect 28 months. So had he been sentenced to 30 months, he would have gotten out yesterday. He would have been a free man. However, he now has 32 months that he must serve. He could spend up to an additional 3 years in prison, though he will reportedly be eligible for supervised release after 1 year. He was also ordered to pay $890,000 in restitution. Because that's just pocket change for journalists, right? Everybody has $890,000 laying around to pay for, supposedly. This is what drives me crazy about the Barrett Brown case, is that Barrett Brown was not a hacker. He did not hack anything. Barrett Brown was an investigative journalist. And Barrett Brown came upon some information that had some hacked material. He found a website. He did not create the website. He found a website. might not have even been an entire site, could have just been a web page. And he posted a link to that web page. I've heard conflicting reports that he posted it in a forum and that he posted it in a chat room, but in either case, it makes no difference where he posted the link. Barrett Brown was not a hacker. I can't stress this enough. Barrett Brown was a journalist. This could happen. What happened to Barrett Brown could happen to anyone who is doing investigative journalism that stumbles across some material that may contain sensitive information that has been leaked without the permission of the person that owned the material. So because he posted a link, he is being ordered to pay nearly $1 million in restitution as if he were the person that hacked and leaked the material. The article from Wired continues. It says, in the ruling in Texas, it brings to a close an unusual saga that had the feds initially charging Brown with 12 counts of aggravated identity theft and trafficking in stolen data for simply posting a link in a chat room. That link pointed to a file containing data stolen by members of the hacktivist group Anonymous from the intelligence firm Stratfor, or Strategic Forecasting. The data included company emails as well as credit card numbers belonging to subscribers of Stratfor's service. The charges against Brown caused a stir when they were first revealed because Brown had not stolen the data himself. He had simply copied the hyperlink from one public chat room and posted it in another public chat room. The trial was poised to become an important First Amendment test case until those charges were dropped in 2013, leaving Brown to face just 2 charges for accessory after the fact and for obstructing the execution of a search warrant. Brown was also facing charges in a separate case related to threats he made against an FBI agent in a YouTube video. In the video, and this is where I can't fully stand up and support Barrett Brown because of the video that he made. The video was titled, "Why I'm Going to Destroy FBI Agent Robert Smith, Part 3, Revenge of the Lith." Brown threatened to dox FBI agent Robert Smith by posting his address and other details online. Brown was charged with making internet threats, conspiracy to make publicly available restricted personal information of a federal employee, and retaliation against a federal law enforcement officer. He pled guilty to making the internet threat. That case was combined with the Stratfor case for purposes of sentencing. Under the accessory after the fact charge in the Stratfor case, authorities say Brown tried to help the Stratfor hacker avoid apprehension by creating confusion about his identity in a manner that diverted attention away from the hacker. There's more on this when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Hi, I'm Darryl W. Perry, and I need your help to take Peace, Love, Liberty Radio on the road. In the spirit of Motorhome Diaries and Liberty on Tour, I intend to take the message of peace, love, and liberty on the road. I intend to leave New Hampshire at the conclusion of the New Hampshire Liberty Forum and return at the beginning of PorcFest. During the 104-day trip, I'll be visiting at least 10 cities across the country, speaking to people about the ideas of peace, love, and liberty, while continuing to produce daily Liberty media. Pensacola, Florida, Austin, Texas, Sedona, Arizona, and Denver, Colorado are already on the map. If you have a college group, a local Liberty on the Rocks, or other Liberty meetup that you'd like me to visit, you can possibly add your event to my calendar. To find out more about the tour or to donate, visit tour.fppradio.com. That's tour.fppradio.com. The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. The article from Wired about the Barrett Brown sentencing. Let me back up to the beginning of the paragraph that I finished with in the last segment. Under the accessory after-the-fact charges in the Stratfor case, authorities say Brown tried to help the Stratfor hackers avoid apprehension by creating confusion about his identity in a manner that diverted attention away from the hacker, according to court documents. This included communicating with Stratfor employees after the hack in a way that authorities say drew attention away from the hacker. The hacker is not named in court documents filed in Brown's case, but anonymous hacktivist Jeremy Hammond was sentenced in 2013 to 10 years in prison for the hacks on Stratfor. The obstruction charge relates to an attempt by Brown and his mother to hide a laptop from authorities during a search of her home in March 2012. Brown's mother was separately charged with obstruction and given 6 months probation. So what happened was Barrett Brown, the reason the FBI came after Barrett Brown finally, the final time, was because of the YouTube video. Like they were making his life miserable because he had posted the link. But what really got them to where they said, we're taking this man down, was the YouTube videos. That is what pushed them over the edge. So the FBI shows up at Barrett Brown's mother's house with a search warrant. And either Barrett or his mother, one, hid the laptop. They, just hid it somewhere to where the FBI could not find the laptop. And so that's the obstruction charge. There is a similar case. In some kind of ways, it's similar. In other ways, not so much. James Risen is a journalist for the New York Times. James Risen, as a journalist for the New York Times, has contacts that are either current or former CIA. It's really difficult to tell. But there was some information that James Risen wrote about several years ago. And there was a court case where they said that James Risen needed to divulge his sources. James Risen said, as a journalist, I am under no obligation to tell you who my sources are. That is a protection that I have as a journalist. And there was a court that just recently, even though the federal courts said that James Risen could be forced to testify, the court that's actually hearing the case where James Risen was to be called as a witness decided that they were not going to call him as a witness because they knew he would not testify. They're like, it's pointless to call this man as a witness because he's just going to stand here and say, I plead the fifth, or not answer your questions, so it's not going to happen. Slightly different in hiding a laptop, but they've, basically the feds came in. They're like, we want to see the laptop where you did this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And either Brown or his mother said, nope. Well, we've got a search warrant. Okay, well, search away. Laptop's not here because the laptop was hidden. So that was the obstruction charge. The article from Wired continues. It says Brown had originally been scheduled for sentencing in December, But during that hearing, Judge Sam A. Lindsay took the unusual step of delaying after prosecutors attempted to reintroduce issues that had long ago been dismissed in the case. It was just one more bizarre turn in an already bizarre case. According to Brown's defense attorney, Ahmed Ghapoor, prosecutors wanted the judge to base sentencing in part on the dismissed charges for trafficking in stolen data, namely the credit card numbers that were stolen in the Stratfor hack. And again, Barrett Brown did not hack Stratfor. Barrett Brown simply posted a link to where people could find the information that was taken from Stratfor from one chat room to another. Public chat rooms, not private chats among hackers, public chat rooms that presumably anybody could get into, hence the term public. And he said, hey, here's a bunch of information that was taken from Stratfor. You might find it interesting. I'm guessing what the actual chat was before he posted the link, because obviously nobody's going to look at a link unless you explain a little bit about what it is. So, would make sense to me that he says, hey, here's some info that was taken from Stratfor. Here's the link. Barrett Brown did not hack any of the information. Barrett Brown did not publish the information. Barrett Brown posted a link. Yet, the prosecution wanted to charge him with trafficking stolen data, and they wanted the judge to take that into consideration during sentencing. Thankfully, the judge had a little bit of sense and said, wait, no, I can't consider charges that were dismissed. This is not what he pled to. This was not what he was convicted of ever at any point. And Brown's defense attorney, Ahmad Ghapoor, told Wired prior to sentencing, the question is whether there are multiple victims of the accessory after the fact conduct or whether it's just one victim, which is Stratfor. The government argued that there were multiple victims because every one of those credit cards was attributed to a different victim. We argued that those charges have long been dropped, and he did not contribute to any harm that resulted because all he did was cut and paste a link to a file containing the information. The government insists that the credit cards are relevant, even though the actual charge over them was dropped because they say Brown was part of a conspiracy that included the theft of the cards and should therefore be sentenced as a member of that conspiracy. Ghapoor said the government tried to posit that there was a vast conspiracy by Anonymous to exfiltrate all this data from various security companies and that Barrett was somehow part of this giant RICO conspiracy. Ghapoor called it a very wily move on the government's part. The judge, however, pushed back on the government's attempt to increase Brown's sentence in this way by deciding to postpone sentencing until he could review all of the arguments thoroughly. Ghapoor said on the evening of the sentencing in a phone interview with Wired, in all the trials I've been part of, and they're all complex cases, I've never seen a judge take a time out to issue his sentence. The move gave Ghapoor hope that the judge was taking extra care to get the sentencing right and not be unduly swayed by the government's forceful arguments. There is more, including comments from Barrett Brown. Surprisingly happy comments from Barrett Brown that we'll get to when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Opening a wallet is quick and easy, and for merchants, there are no transaction fees on the first $1 million worth of transactions. I trust Coinbase. You should too. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. Hi, I'm Darryl W. Perry, and I need your help to take Peace, Love, Liberty Radio on the road. In the spirit of Motorhome Diaries and Liberty on Tour, I intend to take the message of peace, love, and liberty on the road. I intend to leave New Hampshire at the conclusion of the New Hampshire Liberty Forum and return at the beginning of PorcFest. During the 104-day trip, I'll be visiting at least 10 cities across the country, speaking to people about the ideas of peace, love, and liberty, while continuing to produce daily Liberty media. Pensacola, Florida, Austin, Texas, Sedona, Arizona, and Denver, Colorado are already on the map. If you have a college group, a local Liberty on the Rocks, or other Liberty meetup that you'd like me to visit, you can possibly add your event to my calendar. To find out more about the tour or to donate, visit tour.fppradio.com. That's tour.fppradio.com. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. And hopefully, I do not become a Barrett Brown. Why do I say that? Well, because this case is all about a journalist posting a link to information. Not hacking. He was charged initially with hacking or conspiracy to hack. He was convicted, well, he took a plea, but one of the offenses that he pled to was conspiracy after the fact in relation to the hacking. And luckily, he is not going away for 100 years. It warms my heart to know that Barrett Brown is unusually happy about his sentence. But that's really the thing. Like, if you're going to jail for a long time, you have to be in the right state of mind. And it seems as though Barrett Brown is in the right state of mind. Let me scroll down to the reactions. Wired has a section in their article here, and again, this will be linked in the show notes. It says, reactions to the sentencing has been harsh, with many on Twitter arguing that all journalists are in danger of similar prosecution if they link to stolen data posted online. Independent journalist Alexa O'Brien tweeted, "The U.S. government is coming for you next." The full tweet says, I kept thinking of Snowden, journalists, and WikiLeaks today. The U.S. government is coming for you next. Hashtag Barrett Brown. In his statement to the court, Brown took responsibility for some of his actions and expressed regret for them, but also called out the government for its handling of his case, noting several incidents in which government agents lied to or even misled the court. Brown said, normally this sort of thing is left to one's lawyers rather than the defendant, because to do otherwise runs the risk of making the defendant seem combative rather than contrite. According to a prepared statement released to reporters, and apparently, reporters, based on this, reporters were not allowed in, so they just have to go based off of the prepared statement that was given to them by, presumably, his attorney. He added, I think Your Honor can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. I think Your Honor understands that one can regret the unjust things one has done while also being concerned about the unjust things that have been done to him. That, however, is not the full statement from Barrett Brown, and there is another statement from Barrett Brown that I will read to you. Or actually, I don't think I have the full statement, but I do have some excerpts of the statement. The Guardian actually has more information about the statement. It says, in his statement to the judge before sentencing, Brown expressed regret for posting the threatening videos, which led to his arrest, calling them idiotic and reiterating his defense's contention that he made them in a manic state brought on by drug withdrawal. But he also criticized the government's methods in pursuing his case and expressed concern that the contributors to Project PM might be indicted under some spurious charges. In his statements following the judge's ruling, Brown struck a different tone. For the next 35 months, he said, I'll be provided with free food, clothes, and housing as I seek to expose the wrongdoings by the Bureau of Prison officials and staff and otherwise report on news and culture in the world's greatest prison system. And there's another part of the statement that I read, and I will try to find this for you, where, yes, he also said, I love this statement. Brown was sarcastically upbeat, is the way The Guardian describes it, writing a statement that says, good news! The government decided today that because I did such a good job investigating the cyber-industrial complex, they're now going to send me to investigate the prison industrial complex. And there's a little bit more to this article, and I think that it gives you some insight. The following stuff from The Guardian: Kevin Gallagher, the director of the Free Barrett Brown campaign, whom Brown personally singled out for thanks in his pre-sentencing statement, told The Guardian that his first reaction was that the judge had got it wrong. I was shocked and disappointed, Gallagher said. At one point, Brown was facing a possible combined sentence of over 100 years, but after prosecutors dropped several charges against him following a plea deal, Brown's sentencing parameters were reduced. Gallagher warned that the long sentence would nonetheless set a precedent for journalists. Gallagher said, basically, if you share a link to publicly available material without knowing fully what's in it, maybe it could contain stolen credit card info, you could be prosecuted. Any journalist that uses hackers as sources is extremely chilled by this, Gallagher said. Gallagher said that he spoke to Brown on Wednesday and found him in high spirits. We thought he'd get between 30 and 40 months. I think he's just as upset as we are. And again, I am pleasantly surprised with how upbeat Barrett Brown seems in all of this. And hopefully when he comes out of prison, he continues to be an investigative journalist. Hopefully the federal government has not stifled his willingness, and it doesn't seem as though they have based on the statement, but hopefully when he comes out, he has the same determination and same drive to expose government corruption. And I realize that the Stratfor case was, or the Stratfor hack was not all about government corruption, but in a way it was, because Stratfor had a lot of government contracts for keeping government documents, storage of government documents, public government documents. They also kept some that apparently were private government documents, but that's not Barrett Brown's fault that, when he's linking over to public documents, that there's some private information in that. That's not Barrett Brown's fault. That's somebody else's fault. But Barrett Brown going to jail for another, I think it's right around 3 more years. Hopefully he gets out sooner than that. And again, hopefully when he gets out, he goes right back at it and continues to be an investigative journalist. I wish him all the best, and hopefully this never happens to me or you, because nobody should wind up going to jail for exposing government corruption and posting a link to information that might be sensitive data. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online, fppradio.com. Don't forget, every Wednesday, the AMA Ask Me Anything, AMA at fppradio.com. PLLradio.com.